It's wonderful to be in your region. Thank you. My name's Alistair Hulett. I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. I've lived many years in Australia. So, while a lot of the songs I sing and play are the songs of the workers and the peasants of Scotland and Ireland, I also wrote quite a few songs while I was living in Australia, using the style of that music to write about contemporary issues. Can you hear my guitar at the back all right? Can you hear me? Because it's as loud as it's going to go. I wrote this song about a strike that took place in Australia in 1949, a very important strike, because it had a number of lasting effects on the mindset of workers in Australia. The mine workers were under the leadership of the Communist Party, and at this time the Communist Party was a mass workers' party, and they wanted to see if they could seriously overthrow the Social Democrats and become the main party of the workers. But to do that, they thought they could take a shortcut, and unfortunately you cannot take shortcuts. But they took the mine workers out on strike for an 8-hour day, knowing that the Social Democratic government would oppose this, even though it had been a central plank of their policy ever since the party was formed. But they would argue, now is not the time, because that's what they were always arguing, now is not the time, jam tomorrow. And of course they did exactly that, but they went a lot further. They threw the strike leaders into prison, they seized the strike funds, and eventually sent the army in as scab labour to break the strike. And in order to justify all of that, they launched what was called the Reds Beneath the Bed campaign, where they argued that this strike was actually a communist plot to destroy the Australian economy. Complete rubbish, of course. But the election came around, and the communists thought everyone was going to vote for them because the Labour government had been so disgusting. But unfortunately, there was a landslide victory for the Conservatives, for the right-wingers. So out of this tangled web comes this song. And it's got a chorus. If you join in the choruses: workers united will never be defeated. History will honour those who rally to the call. Determined and resolved not to be bought out or cheated, till bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. If you can't remember all that, bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. And I'd like to play this song in solidarity with the Audi car plant strikers who are starting their strike tomorrow, and I hope they really stir the pot. In the days of 49, the Miners' Federation, they took on the big Australian backed by government and law. Shipley sent the troops to force them by starvation to respect the right of people to rule by tooth and claw. They seized the miners' property, they threw the leaders into jail. The papers called it war against the Reds beneath the bed. The miners stood their ground, they would not submit to blackmail, and the cash flowed in from far and near to keep their families fed. Workers united will never be defeated. History will honour those who rally to the call, determined and resolved not to be bought out or cheated, till bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. That was a chorus. Dockers, metal workers, nurses and shopkeepers, they sent cash and food, wrote letters on some floor to help the fight. The thing that was most needed was endorsement from the Trades and Labour Council, but the cowards kept their kid gloves lily white. Workers united will never be defeated. This time will honour those who rally to the call, determined and resolved not to be bought out or cheated, till bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. Oh, it's a bloody shame, workers always get the blame, holding up the holy wheels of progress, putting spanners in the works. All we care about is lux. That's the reason why this country's in a bloody mess. So live on less. working class careers, with an eye on greener pastures, did a deal with power and capital to stem the growing tide. The lesson must be learned, it must never be forgotten, how Chifley and his government stood on the boss's side. Workers united will never be defeated, it's the name of all of those who rally to the call, determined and resolved not to be bought out or cheated. No bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. No bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. No bread and peace and liberty is the common right of all. Not everything I sing is of a political nature. You'd be relieved, I'm sure, to discover so early in the course of the evening. This is a story song, a ballad. In Scotland we have a very ancient tradition of story songs, and some of these story songs can be anything up to 150 or 200 verses long. Take 3 hours to sing one of them. Be pleased to hear that this isn't one of those. This is a fairly short ballad, and a lot of the ballads are very bloodthirsty. You know, lots of people get killed, right? You know, but no one gets killed in this ballad. The Prozac must be starting to kick in for me. This is a story that's set in Glasgow, but it's older than the city of Glasgow. It comes from the days when Glasgow was still a sleepy little fishing village on the banks of the River Clyde. And it tells the story of a young woman who, like so many others in the city of love. Did you know that Glasgow is the city of love now? You haven't heard that, yeah. It's a fairly recent development. For the 1980s, we were the European city of culture. And I was in Australia when I heard that Glasgow was the European city of culture, and like many other people, I giggled. Because, you know, well, Glasgow, I mean, really, hello there, China, how you going in there? Stitch that, you know. But then it became the city of architecture in 1999. And it's true that Glasgow has some beautiful, beautiful architecture. But it became the city of love just last year, because apparently some complete chancer, some punter, found bones wrapped up in a very ancient piece of cloth in a shoebox, you know, in a cardboard box on top of a wardrobe in a very rough area of Glasgow called the Gorbals. And experts examined these relics and declared them to be the bones of St. Valentine. Yeah, I kid you not. So Glasgow City Council has been marketing Glasgow now for the last couple of years as the city of love. And they're encouraging young people, well, I suppose people of all ages really, from all around the world to come to Glasgow on St. Valentine's Day and hold hands and gaze mistily at the shoebox on top of the wardrobe in the gardens. It hasn't caught on so far, but we're still working on it. Anyway, like so many others in the city of love, she's got 2 boyfriends. One is a tinker, that's like a Romany, you know, you understand? Gypsy. One is a tinker, and the other is a fisher. And she marries the fisher, and the tinker is very upset. He's very angry that he's been unceremoniously dumped, until he begins to think, well, by the nature of the fisherman's work, he's away from home all night, 5 nights a week. He thinks, you bloody beauty. So he thinks that's a situation he can live very well with. But of course, as luck would have it, the very night that he goes around to pay the girl a visit is the very night that the husband comes home early. What can he do but hide up the chimney? So the song is called The Tinker and the Lum. That's Scottish for chimney, and the chorus is a sort of tankard swinging song, goes dum dum, hi derry do. Do you want to try that? dum dum, hi-da-dee-do. That comes the day of every verse. Join in. I'll sing ye a song that'll please you right well, concerning a lassie in Glasgow did dwell. 'Twere lover she had, and she often confessed she couldn't tell which of them she loved the best. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do now. One was a tinker, a stout broken blade, the other by fishing did earn his bread. Jock was the first that did marriage propose, so he and the tinker they did become foes. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. The Jock and his bell up to London would go, and there they got married, I'll have you to know. The tinker he watched by night and by day, he paid her a visit when Jock was away. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. And when he to the fisherman's house did repair, she made him quite welcome as soon as he got there. She said, Jock is away, gae fetch us a dram, we'll make ourselves happy this night if we can. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. And with gentle persuasion he gained her consent. The tinker and her up together they went into a fine room, the hour to pass in sweet conversation and drinking their glass. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. Midnight a rapping that came to the door, said she, it's a rap of my husband I'm sure. What will we do this night to become? The best thing I know is to hide in the lum. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. So well in the lum, right fast he did stick. He thought to himself she was playing a trick. They'll get to the door and she'll let her Jock in. Said she, my dear man, you're soaked to the skin. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. Jock kindled the fire, now this is the joke. Well, in the lum was near stifled with smoke. Down he come tumbling, gain a wild roar, and Jock in a fright he fell flat on the floor. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. Well, took to his heels and away did run, sick with the smoke and he'd got in the lum. When Jock come to round the house he did reel, say, no my dear wife, I've just met the devil. Oh dum, dum, hi-derry-do. Jock and his wife in love do agree, well never came back his old sweetheart they see. Jock never grumbles when hame he does come, for fear of the devil that came down the lum. Derry-dum, dum, hi-derry-do. If you're having difficulty with the Scots dialect, you are? You find it difficult, yeah. I'll try and anglicise it a wee bit, but it might help you to know that Scots is actually closer to German than English is. You know, I mean, all the three languages share a common ancestor, Anglo-Saxon. But in Scots, like in English, long, we say lang. The same as you. And for right, we say recht. We do too, and light is licht. Yeah. So if you hear a lot of German words coming into the song, that might sort of help. So watch out for them when they pop up. It's this is a song that I wrote after driving through what used to be the mining community of Grindthorpe. There's a film come out here called Brassed Off. Do you know that film? Yes. Yeah, it's a song about a brass band from this particular place where they shut the pit down, and it led to 85% male unemployment after the pit closure. So there's a lot of social problems. Amongst one of the most major ones was widespread heroin addiction. Low-grade heroin in the area of known as Brown, and you could buy a bag of Brown or Broon. As we say, how do you say brown? Brown. You say broon in Scots. You could buy a bag of broon for a fiver, £5. And some ex-miners applied to the government for money to set up a drug rehabilitation centre in Grindthorpe, and their application was turned down. It was considered unworthy. And yet, an application by Prince Charles, that chinless wonder and leading parasite, he applied for money to fix up one of his stately homes, and he got the money shortly after the miners were turned down. That brought to mind something said by a Prime Minister of Britain. Harold Macmillan said of the British miners, they fought the Kaiser and they beat him, and they fought Hitler and they beat him too. They are the best men in the world. And it's true that in those two disastrous wars, more miners on both sides actually gave their lives than any other trade in either Britain or Germany. So this is a song about what was done to Harold's best men. Work is stacking from us now, they closed the pit down. There's 85% unemployed in this town. One day's filled with sorrow that Strangbeer carried round. A fiver will buy ye a bag o' the brown. When we were Harold's best men, when the bully wheels ran, now Johnny Miner is Johnny the man. An ill wind blows down Cuttle's Lane that brings nobody good. It reeks of paregoric and it stains the walls with blood. There's needles in the gutter across the neighbourhood. We're told our wains are turning out, they better than they should. We were Harold's best men when the bully wheels ran. Now Johnny Miner is Johnny the man. When the dogs of war were barking for their squaddy's blood to run, they took our picks and shovels, they gave us Tommy guns, marched us to the trenches, lined us up against the Hun. Frightened sons of mothers slaughtered other mothers' sons. We were Harold's best men when the bully wheels ran. Now Johnny Miner is Johnny the man, and Mother Nature's cupboard's bare. There's too many mouths to feed. That's what the king of the stockpile says when he pisses on the ones in need. There's always cash for palaces, there's always cash for war, and for the land of hope that we fought for. Empty now, the stairwells filled with bricks. The banks have moved away, and there's nothing that afflicts. According to the papers, we're vandals in the sticks. 'Cause Johnny's lost his job, now he steals to buy a fix. When the pulley wheels ran, we were Harold's best men. Now it's our turn to us, but we'll not be fooled again. When the pulley wheels ran, we were Harold's best men. Now it's our turn to rust, but we'll not be fooled again. Of course, we all know from our history that there was massive working class opposition to the First World War on both sides, and over here the fight against it was led by Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht, and Liebknecht was put into jail for treason because he advised the German working class to rise up and overthrow the Kaiser and thus put an end to the war, which they eventually did in 1919. There was a fella in Glasgow by the name of John Maclean, and he was jailed a total of 6 times by the British government for exactly the same crime. Under the Defence of the Realm Act, he advised the working class to overthrow their own government and to bring about a defeat for their own side in the war as a way out of the carnage. And John Maclean was sentenced twice to hard labour. First time for 3 years, the second time for 5 years. And on both occasions he was released early due to massive street protests demanding his release. And this is a song written by Hamish Henderson. I've just had an album called Red Clydeside, which is all about that particular period in Glasgow's history. This song's not on that album, it's on an earlier album, and it was written by somebody else, about the same event. When John Maclean was released the second time from jail, 200,000 people were at Buchanan Street Station to welcome him home. And this is Hamish's song about John Maclean's triumphant return to Glasgow. It's called the John Maclean March. And if you watch out, you'll hear a reference in the song to Liebknecht as well. Hey Mac, did you see him as he came down Bigaggy? Oh, the lamb and law and north o' the Tay. Yon man is coming, the hail to his parliament, we're all sure he'll win back to Glasgow the day. The Chiners and Hunters on, they're marching to Clydebank. Come on now and hear him, feel we our trying to bide. Turn out, Jock and Jimmy, leave your crans and your muckle gantries. Great John Maclean's coming home to the Clyde. Hello, Pat Malone, well I knew you'd be here, son. The red and the green lad will wear side by side. Cornwall's is his today, Scotland belongs to him. Now great John Maclean's coming home to the Clyde. I'll sleep in London roads, the round that we're marching. The lads say that Brunilaw, they're here to a man. They'll wash your hodrums, get back hail and shifter, take your pipes, mate, and march at the head of the clan. Forward to Glasgow Green, we'll march and get order. Well, grips his banner wheel, that boy is nae late. Look now, that's Johnny there, that's him, he's the bonny fighter. Lennon's his comrade, and Liebknecht's his mate. Tuck tent while he's sleeping, for they'll mind what he says here. In Glasgow, our city, and the whole world beside. Aye man, the Scarlet's bonny, here's to you, Hill and Shawnee. Great John Maclean's coming home to the Clyde. When it's finished, I'm away home to Springburn. Come home to your tea jar, we'll soon have you fed. It's hard work the speaking, but I'm sure he'll be tired in it. I'll sleep on the flare mat and gee John the bed. The whole city's quiet now, and Ken City's resting. At home ways Glasgow finds their fame and their pride. The red banners waving, man, Scotland has marched again. Now great John Maclean has come home to the Clyde. Now great John Maclean has come home to the Clyde. fella who certainly made his mark, for better or worse, on the landscape of Scotland's social history was a fella called John Knox. John was a disciple of Martin Luther, and he believed that he was on a mission from God to eradicate fun in Scotland. And I can tell by that little snigger that came from some of you that some of you think he was successful in his mission. John was not a happy man. He was a bit of a grumbleguts, was our Mr. Knox. Sort of like Ian Paisley in tights, if you can wrap your head around that. Have you heard of Ian Paisley? You know who I'm talking about, Ian Paisley? Are you familiar with Ian Paisley? He's a right-wing bigot who pretends to be a Christian from Northern Ireland, and he's the leader of the Loyalists, and he's the enemy of the peace process. He doesn't want any of that. He wants the Catholics driven down. You know, there'll be no papism in Howley Ulster. Ulster says no. He wants to ban line dancing. But why would you want to ban line dancing? Line dancing was invented by God so that Morris dancers would have someone to laugh at. You don't know Morris dancing here. You don't have, yeah, have you seen them at the Yankees? English dancing. Mind you, it's a bit rich coming from a country where our idea of dancing is lining your hands up like that and jumping up and down, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, I digress, and why not? John Knox, in his day, if you were caught engaging in what they called hooch-magandie. Hooch-magandie is an old Scots word from the 17th century, which means basically sex and drugs and rock and roll. And if you were caught engaging in hooch-magandie, they used to make you stand on a stool in the church. In Scots, we say the kirk. You had to stand on a stool in the kirk, called the Stool of Repentance, or the Cutty Stool as it was known. And there was a big sign around your neck saying drunkard, or fornicator, or line dancer, whatever. And the minister would decide how many Sundays you would spend on the Cutty Stool based on his assessment of the quality of the hooch-magandie you've been engaging in. So this is a song about somebody that was caught engaging in hooch-magandie, wound up on the Cutty Stool, and decided it was worth every minute of it. Chorus goes, I swore by the light of the morning sun, my drinking days were over. That very night I was back in town, following the ways of my rover. We'll try that. I swore by the light of the morning sun, my drinking days were over. That very night I was back in town, following the ways of my rover. I've travelled east, I've travelled west, and I've been south of the border. Seldom sober, often drunk, sometimes out from order. Sometimes I've been true to love, and sometimes I've betrayed it. But when it's time to cop a whack, then I've got up and paid it. I swore by the light of the morning sun, my drinking days were over. That very night I was back in town, following the ways of a rover. Toast for all fine sign queens absent or departed. I'll drink to my ain true love, though she was fickle-hearted. And lay me down with another girl, with a heap full of wine and brandy. Who gives a shine for the Cutty Stool? Let's hie for hooch-magandie. I swore by the light of the morning sun, my drinking days were over. That very night I was back in town, following the ways of a rover. Call it my vocation. Raise your Christian morals with your rules and regulations. Through the smoke of innocence, like queens will reel and spin. All down the gorgeous avenue, you can't have the sin. When I swore by the light of the morning sun, my drinking days were over. very night I was back in town, following a race of a rover, in a storm of the light of the morning sun. The drinking days were over, that very night I was back in town. I was following the ways of a rover. This is a traditional song, and it's a version of a song that's very, very, very well known all over Britain. You'll find it in Scotland, England, Ireland and Wales. And in Scotland they call it "Wi' my roving eye", and in Ireland it's known as "I Roved Out", and in England they call it "17 Come Sunday". And basically the storyline is identical, even though they've got different tunes and different titles. The storyline is what makes you realise that they're versions of the same song. A farm worker comes to town with his month's wages, and he's drinking. He meets a young woman. They get very drunk and end up in bed, and midway through their lovemaking, the door flies open and it's the girl's mother. And while she's laying into her daughter with the business end of a frying pan, the farm worker makes his escape out the window and up the street, but leaving behind his trousers, his watch and his purse. So that's how it's usually sung, and it's a very popular song. You'll find it all over Britain. This is a version that comes from a traveller. Now in Scotland we have the Roma people, but we also have these other people we call travellers. And unlike the Roma, they didn't arrive in Scotland. I think the gypsies, or whatever we are going to call them, arrived in Scotland round about the 13th century. But the travellers have been there for as long as anybody can remember, but they live an identical lifestyle and they often intermarry. But the travellers have a way of taking a song that everybody knows and giving it a little twist so that it becomes the traveller version. And this is from the singing of an old traveller by the name of Davy Stewart, who was discovered entertaining a theatre queue, playing his accordion with his hat at one foot to collect the money and his handkerchief at the other foot to hold his false teeth, because he used to take his teeth out when he sang. And this is his version of that song, and the storyline is exactly the same until the door flies open, and it's not the girl's mother, it's the police, the polis, and he doesn't escape out the window. They drag him out of bed and throw him down the stairs, and when he complains about police brutality, they say they're going to arrest him for vagrancy. So the traveller version. Yeah. This is the overgate, and the chorus is dead simple. It goes, "My Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay." Do you want to try it? With my Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay. Well, you're the only people in Europe apart from us that can say richt properly. Could you try again? With my Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay. I went up the overgate, I met with a bonny wee lass. She looked at me from the tail of her e'e as I came walking past. Wi' my Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay. Said, I'm a bonny lassie, now would you like a glass? Right saucily she said to me, come along and play your best. Wi' my Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay. She took me up the water to a wee pub near the burn. It's true what Robbie Burns said, a man was mighty morn. Wi' my Turinay, a rickful laddie, rickful a Turinay. We hot pies and porter and whiskey, rum and beer. She ate and drank as much as would be an elephant for a year. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring She took me to her wee bit lodging for to spend the night. But knocking it come to her door at the breaking o' daylight. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring And it was a big fat Polish. He got me by the hair and he gave to me the puddly jig to the bottom of the stair. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring Now I went up the stairs again for to get my clays. He said, bloomin' lad, get out of here, I'll give you 60 days. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring Well, I said, I've lost my watch and chain, also my purse. She said she'd lost her maiden heat, and that was a damn sight worse. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring I come across the Ochtermachty for to sell something in Dundee, and I met with a bonny wee lassie. She got the liberty of me. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring I'll be hame to Ochtermachty, can change it for TV, for breaking no a £5 note with a lassie in Dundee. We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring We were touring a wreckful laddie, wreckful of touring Right at the start of this set, I said that I wrote songs about Australia, and I played one and then promptly forgot all about Australia and concentrated on Scotland. But swing back over to Australia for a few songs to finish off the set. I'll sing you two songs that I'm going to string together. I wrote them both for a play that was produced in Australia called Blue Murder. And the central character in this play was a fellow called Lang Hancock. And Lang Hancock was a tycoon. Well, he became a tycoon. He became a multi-millionaire. He discovered blue asbestos in a place in West Australia called Whitnum in 1947. And although it's absolutely 100% for sure, Lang Hancock knew full well that exposing people to blue asbestos is potentially lethal. You can get a lung condition called asbestosis. He went ahead and opened up his mine and placed advertisements in newspapers all over mainland Europe, but in remote parts where he was fairly certain that folk wouldn't know what they were letting themselves in for. And in those advertisements, he presented Whitnum as a sort of sun-drenched workers' utopia, when in reality it was a toxic, stinking hellhole. And the deal on offer was, if you signed a contract to say that you would mine blue asbestos for 2 years, the government would provide you with assisted passage over to Australia for £10. £10 took you there, but the catch was, you couldn't leave until your 2 years was up, and 2 years is long enough to get asbestosis, for sure. And it's a fact, it's a documented fact, that anybody who did try to leave before the 2 years was up was tracked down by the West Australian police and brought back and put back into the camp and told to get down that mine again. And many of those miners and their wives who used to wash their clothes because they were full of asbestos dust, and many of their children who used to play in the asbestos tailings that Lang Hancock left scattered all over Whitnum are now suffering from asbestosis. So that's what this play was mainly to highlight, because many people in Australia think of Lang Hancock as being a hero because he made a lot of money. In actual fact, he's a murderer. First song's called Blue Murder. The chorus goes, day in, day out, every day they drive us harder, day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. Sorry. And the second song is called He Fades Away. So the first song is written from the point of view of a miner. And the second song is written from the point of view of a miner's partner who is watching the miner slowly dying from asbestosis. So they're not very cheery songs, but see how we go anyway. So day in, day out, every day they drive us harder, day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. And I'll sing the first one without any instrumentation, but if you feel like providing a bit of rhythmic accompaniment, please feel free. They said it's easy money in a full-page ad in a local rag. Always nice and sunny, come on lad and pack your bag. Off to West Australia, leave the old hometown behind. Be a winner, not a failure, there's money to be made in a window mine. Day in, day out, every day they drive us harder. Day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. They took me to my quarters, a stinking bed in an open shed. I got my working orders, with a lamp and a tin hat on my head. Day in, day out, every day they drive us harder. Day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. My girl, she's a cook and cleaner, she works all day in a canteen hall. 6 days since I've seen her, some don't have no girl at all. Day in, day out, every day they drive us harder. Day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. She slips the fine blue dust up, she puts it into an old roll pack. Never had a check up, if she did, she'd get the sack. Day in, day out, every day they drive us harder. Day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. I feel my health is failing, I work all day in the killer rest. The kids play in the tailings, the boss says work and work I must. Day in, day out, every day they drive us harder. Day in, day out, they're getting away with blue murder. There's a man in my bed, I used to love him. His kisses used to take my breath away. There's a man in my bed, I hardly know him. I wipe his face and hold his hand and watch him as he slowly fades away. And he fades away, not like leaves that fall in autumn, turning gold against the grey. He fades away, like the blood stains on the pillowcase that I wash every day. He fades away. There's a man in my bed, he's on a pension, although he's only 50 years of age. The lawyer says we might get compensation in the course of due procedure, but he wouldn't say for certain at this stage. And he fades away, not like leaves that fall in autumn, turning gold against the grey. He fades away, like the blood stains on the pillowcase that I wash every day. He fades away, and he's not the only one who made the trip so many years ago to work the Whitnum mine. So many young men old before their time and dying slow. They fade away, wheezing bag of bones with lungs half clogged and filled with clay. They fade away. there's a man in my bed. They never told him the cost of bringing home his weekly pay. When the courts decide how much they owe him, how will he spend his money when he lies in bed and coughs his life away? And he fades away, not like leaves that fall in autumn, turning gold against the grey. He fades away, like the blood stains on the pillowcase that I wash every day. He fades away, not like leaves that fall in autumn, turning gold against the grey. He fades away, like the blood stains on the pillowcase that I wash every day. He fades away. Back in the years of what's come to be known as the Great Depression, the total collapse of the capitalist system that occurred as a result of the crash on Wall Street in 1929 gave rise to an international organisation called the Unemployed Workers Movement. And certainly in all over Britain and America, there were branches of the UWM, and also in Australia as well. I don't know whether you had them here in Germany or not, but they were formed to prevent the eviction of destitute families from their homes, people who, through no fault of their own, were thrown out of work and were no longer able to pay their rent, and they were being put out into the street. And the UWM was formed primarily to fight those evictions. And the way they fought was simple, direct, but massively effective. They would get as many of their members as they could possibly muster, and they would surround the house where the eviction was to take place. And usually the landlords and their agents would be, well, almost invariably, would be backed up by the full force of the state apparatus. The police would be there in force to make sure that the eviction went ahead, because that's why the police exist. But they were reinforced on many, many occasions by, in Australia, members of a fascist organisation called the New Guard. If you've read a book by D.H. Lawrence, the great English novelist, he's written a book called Kangaroo. And Kangaroo is set in Australia in the 1930s, and he talks a lot about the New Guard. They formed because they genuinely believed that the Australian working class was on the verge of organising effectively enough to rise up to overthrow the system that produces these enormous depressions. So the evictions were fairly riotous affairs, as many members of the UWM as could be mustered, and the fascists and the police on the other side. Matters came to a head in Sydney, in a part of Sydney called Newtown. To be more precise, Erskineville, or Erco as it's called in the song, just outside of Newtown. I used to live there myself in a street called Union Street, and that's where this particular event took place, the Siege of Union Street. Over 1,000 members of the UWM were assembled to prevent the eviction of a war widow and her children in Union Street on the 14th of August 1931. And they fought for 3 days, and eventually such was the furore in the newspapers over it, because most right-minded people supported her and were opposed to the landlords and to the police and to the fascists. Such was the outcry that the State Premier of New South Wales, Jack Lang, intervened and passed an Act of Parliament called the Moratorium Act, which he very grudgingly pushed through. which effectively outlawed the eviction of destitute people until after the economic crisis was over. Great victory for ordinary people, and one that I think should be remembered. So this is my little attempt to preserve that history. A song called The Siege of Union Street. Oh, let me tune that. That'll be better. Okay. Down at Ergo, 14th August, Saturday night, to Newtown Stanmore, in where Petersham calls when town workers unite. We built a bloody great wall, with planks and boards full 7 foot tall. We didn't mind the howling wind and sleet, when we stood round the fire in Union Street. The man from the shop said, put it on tick. The kids came around with buns and drinks. There was Irish stew and homemade lemonade. They were grand old days on the barricade. I never thought I would join a party, carry a card or see things red. The sight of barefoot children crying out on the pavement turned my head. Their old man's over in France, flapping like a rag on a barbed wire fence. Their mum does what she can to make ends meet, and she's down at the siege of Union Street. The man from the shop said, put it on tick. The kids came around with buns and drinks. There was Irish stew and homemade lemonade. They were grand old days in the barricade. The cops came down and they came down hard. They must have been 500 strong. They called us Reds and they cracked our heads to teach us poor sinners right from wrong. I learned a lesson at night. It's all at war when you stand and fight. The sorrows brisk young coppers on their beat behave like thugs in Union Street. The man from the shop said, put it on tick. The kids came around with bottles and drinks. There was Irish stew and homemade lemonade. They were grand old days in the barricade. Glass and shone like diamonds as morning broke. The cops were back by the railroad track and the streets were filled with working folk. They bust us bloody and raw, but it forced Jack Lang to change the law, and now the landlords have to cop it sweet, and the red flag flies in Union Street. The man from the shop gave licorice sticks to the kids who cleaned up the buns and drinks. Down the years those memories never fade of the grand old days on the barricade. They were grand old days, they were grand old days, they were grand old days on the barricade. I think it's about time for a wee tea break, so I'll finish off with another of the narrative ballads from Scotland. This one is fairly ancient, and it's got a lot of Scots words in it, so I'll take a wee bit of time to give you an outline of the story so you can follow it. If the scholars are correct, then the central character in this song actually lived. His name was George Gordon, and he was the 6th Earl of Huntly. and the Huntleys were of the clan Gordon. And it was the lifelong ambition of George Gordon to overthrow the Stuart kings and put the House of Gordon onto the Scottish throne. And throughout his life, Geordie, or George Gordon, spent many months in the dungeon in Edinburgh Castle, awaiting the removal of his head from his shoulders for his attempts to overthrow the Scottish kings. His first attempt involved organising a Spanish invasion of Scotland. So, I mean, he was painting on a big picture. He was on a big canvas. But this particular ballad relates to events late in his life when he organised an uprising in the far north of Scotland, an uprising of the Gordons against the Stuarts. And the thing to understand about the aristocracy in this time is they're actually gangsters. You know, this is like the streets of Chicago in the 1920s. You get protection rackets going on. The godfather is, of course, the Stuart king. And George Gordon was employed as a hitman. It's true. He was actually, there was a contract taken out by the Stuart king on the Bonnie Earl of Murray, and there's a ballad on the subject, and it was Gordon who was the hitman who got the contract to take him out, and he did. And then, of course, the king denied all knowledge of it, and George Gordon became the patsy and spent several years and nearly got his head chopped off again for that. So he's organised an uprising in the north. A bunch of the hoods from the clan Gordon attempting to overthrow the kind of the main operators in Scotland, the Stuarts. And in the process, one of the king's favourites, a fellow called Sir Charles Hay, is killed. He's blown away. And George Gordon is arrested and put into Edinburgh Castle, and he's going to be heeded. That doesn't mean paid attention to, it means he's going to have his head chopped off, his head chopped off. He gets a letter out to his wife and says, come and do something. She makes her way to Edinburgh on her horse as fast as she can possibly ride, and begins to plead with the king to spare her husband's life. But she has the foresight to bring along her menye. Now that's an old Scots word, and it means a bunch of heavies. She brings a bunch of large boys along with her menye. It says the Gordons came and the Gordons ran, and they were stark and steady, and either word among them all was, Gordons, keep you ready. So the menye walk into the court, and suddenly the king realises, oh shit. And he goes into damage control mode, and eventually agrees to release George Gordon in exchange for £5,000 in international currency. It all comes out in the song. It's pure gangster stuff. It ends off with her saying, it's dear I bought thee, Geordie. There should have been bloody bouks on the green, ere I forsook my laddie. Bloody bouks on the green means dismembered corpses all over the grass. So this is the Ballad of Geordie. I'll take a wee break after this one. There was a battle in the north, and nobles they were many, and they have killed Sir Charlie High and picked the white on Geordie. But he has written a long letter and sent it to his lady, saying ye mun come up to Edinburgh town to see what wants a Geordie. When first she looked the letter on, she was both red and rosy. She hadna read a line or twa till she wallowed like a lily. Gargetty me, my good grey steed, my menye all gae wavy, and I will neither eat nor drink till Edinburgh town shall see. Mounted upon a dead grey steed. Her many a gate we have, and she did nine and eat and drink, till Ian Britton did see her, and first appeared the fatal block, and signed the axe to hit him, and Geordie coming down the stairs, with bands of iron upon him, though he was chained in thick of strang, of iron and steel so heavy, there was no one in all the court, say braw man as Geordie. She's down on her bended knees, oh what she's pale and weary. Oh pardon, pardon, noble king, and give me back my dearie. I gave on 7 sons to my Geordie dear, the 7th ne'er saw his daddy. Oh pardon, pardon, noble king, pity away through lady, but gar bid the heathen man make haste. The king replied full lovely, oh noble king, take all that's mine, but give me back my Geordie. The Gordons came and the Gordons ran, and they were stark and steady, and I the word among them all was Gordon's keep ye ready. But an aged lord at the king's right hand said, noble king, but hear me, gar her tell down 5,000 pounds, I and gie her back her dearie. Some gied her merks and some gied her crowns, some gied her dollars money, and she's tell down 5,000 pounds, and she's got the in her laddie. She blinked light in her Geordie's face, said, dear her Geordie, Geordie, they're sitting bloody bouts on the green, and I pursued my laddie. He clasped her by the middle smaw, and kissed her lips poor Rosie, the fairest flower of womankind, is my sweet bonny lady. I'll be back in about 20 minutes.